Welcome back to Living with a Classic, another episode of Daily Driving a Classic Weekly. My main daily driver behind me here is my 1975 Jaguar XJ6, a bit of a mascot of the channel. I think it's pretty much the main car of the channel, and today it's getting a bit of a facelift as promised. Today is the first part of a new interior. I'm going to do it in probably 2 or 3 parts. Not that the videos will be split up, I'll do the project in different parts. So today, or in this video, will be probably over a couple days because it's a pretty big job. We're going to put in new seats in it, and then when it gets a little warmer outside in the future, we'll do new door cards and new carpets as well. But I know you guys are probably eager to see the new interior, so if you did watch my live stream, you've already seen it, and I've shown it to patrons as well. But if you haven't seen that, well, get ready, because I think you'll be a little surprised about what my plan is. Before you get to see the interior, just a quick word from future me. This episode was filmed over several weeks, and this was quite a challenge. It was a lot of things that had to change, and the plan changed a lot of times during the making of this video. So you will get to follow along and see that sometimes the original plan for something is not how it ends up in the end. I'm really happy with how everything ended up, and you will get to see exactly how I got from where the car is in the beginning until a new, really nice interior is in it. Before we have a look at the new stuff, let's have a look at the current interior in case you're new to the channel or you haven't watched for a while. I have that door card off at the moment, but otherwise, this is what it looks like. And it is an interior from the 70s. It's very worn. I have thought about, doing a whole repair thing. You can do great things with repair, but this thing, it needs new foams. It really needs new covers. It needs everything. And the rear seat is even worse, and I've looked for a while to try and get a 70s interior. It's very hard to find a good used one, and like I said, it won't be enough just to fix a couple things, a couple stitches. It's worn through over there. It's extremely thin. It is basically, it's done its job, this interior. It's been in the car for 45 years, and it's done its job. So there will be a new one. I'll show you the back seat as well. Here we go, and you can see it's just splitting everywhere, and I've tried as best as I can to feed it and get it, softer, but it's just crumbling all over. And when it gets this bad, there really isn't that much you can do, and it's very hard to find good used interiors. At least where I live, I have not been able to, so I have gotten something a little different. And here they are. Well, at least the front seats. The back seats are over there. We're gonna have a look at those in a bit. And you might be wondering what they're out of. If you're not familiar with Jags, you might not recognize them, but they're out of an XJ40. This one's out of a 1988 one, a very low mileage car, which was sadly scrapped due to the car had been vandalized. A local shop that I'm good friends with were breaking the car, and I saw the interior, and they gave me a really good price on it if I removed it myself. It was very expensive. We're talking less than $50 if I removed it myself. And this is just a little dirty. I haven't cleaned it up or anything, but this looks brand new. This is a passenger seat. This is driver's seat. And I'm not going to do it now, but I can. With just almost a little bit of spit, it almost becomes better. So this will look amazing when I actually clean it and treat it. And we have the rear seats over here. So here is the back of the rear seat. The nice thing is, I will get headrests. That is something I want on the car. So I was actually looking for a Series 3 interior as well, because I want headrests in the rear. This is my daily driver. This car, I drive it a lot. People go in the back, and it's safer with headrests. Plus, I think it looks nice. And let's see. This is the seat bottom, and as you can tell, it's all in excellent shape. It's pretty much as the day it left the factory. So you may be wondering, well, how is that going to fit in the car? And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure yet. I have done a few things off camera, actually quite a lot of things off camera, to measure and try and figure things out. I've had one of the chairs in the XJ6 out. That's why it's basically in there loose now with just one bolt. And I have a rough idea what I'm gonna do. And the idea is to not remove any of the old mounting points in the car, and I'm not going to throw away this interior. I'm going to package it, keep it, and if I ever sell the car, the next person can choose to have this interior professionally stored by a upholstery shop, put it back. However, I like this upgrade. It's had heated seats. These are a lot more comfortable. They're a lot higher up. You sit in them better. And the best part is they're electrically adjusted everywhere. And that's where this project is going to get a little bit different. I've seen a couple projects of people putting these in the XJ6s. However, then they've used the seat bottoms from the XJ6 and they haven't gotten all the electrics working. And my idea is to get all the electrics working and make this look as if these have always been in the car. Make it look like it's a factory install. So what I did was I grabbed a center console here out of the car as well. I'm not going to fit the center console. However, I have a spare central console for the XJ6. And this is where all the adjustments are for the seats and the heated seats. So on the same place on the XJ6, on the spare console, I'm going to make out these holes and put them in the same way. I have just finished testing all the electrics off camera, so I pulled off one of these, made up a little bit of a temporary wiring loom, and this is the main loom that goes to the chairs. I plugged this in to the chairs and I got everything working. There were some issues with forward and backward on the driver's seat, but there was a break in the cable. I fixed that and now everything works on these. And I set them on the lowest level all the way back, both of them, so we can get ready to start doing the measurements. You can just have a look here really quickly in the back or in the front of the XJ6, I mean, before I start pulling the interior out. So I do have a spare one of these consoles. I mean, this one isn't really that great either, so I'm not sure which one I'm going to use, but the plan is to make some holes. I think there's some space behind here. Make some holes here and put the panels here and just make it look like a factory install. If I won't be able to fit them back here, I might put them in here. Haven't really decided yet. We will see what happens. But first step is to remove one of the seats and take a lot of measurements. We'll start by taking measurements actually, and then sort of try and figure this out. So I hope you guys are excited about the new interior, even though it's going to be a little bit different. I've set up a light so you guys can see some more, and I'll just share my basic plan. So I have this seat all the way back here. I'm going to take a few measurements before I take it out. It's still a little bit loose in there because I had it out a couple days ago just to see that I think my idea is going to work. So the floor pan of one of these cars, an XJ, or the, XJ Series 1, 2, and 3, and XJ40 are not the same, but I found that they're pretty similar with one thing. Both of them have this raised beam here across, or not really sure what it's called, and it's in the same place on both cars. It goes the distance between here and basically right behind the pedals, so where I measure where the firewall is, and to the pedals, is the same on both cars. So that is really cool. I measured on my Daimler. However, the only difference is this thing is about 4 centimeters higher off the ground, or the floor here. That's the only difference I have really found. In the XJ40 seats, they mount to this thing in the front, that way in a bolt, and in the back they mount for the floor. These seats mount in a different way, which I'll show you in a little bit, but before that, I'm going to take 1 or 2 measurements. So the measurements I'm after is the distance from the floor and up until the front of the seat. This is collapsed here, but this is pretty alright. So I mean, it's not going to be super scientific or anything, but really is what I'm going after, is the distance up to there. And as you can see, that is pretty much 30 centimeters. And these seats you cannot adjust up and down. The new ones you can. I've set them now so they're all the way down. So I'm guessing we want to have a distance here with the new seat in place that is about 30 centimeters. It's okay if it's a little less. I do not really want it to be more because I can electrically raise that new seat. That won't be an issue. And distance back is going to be fine. So normally to get one of these out, there's a screw down here. It's already removed. So once you remove that screw in the bracket, the seat's all loose already. You just take the seat bottom out, and then there are mounting bolts here here, there, and there. I've already loosened all of them except one of them. I'll remove that one now. I'll lift this seat out and we'll have a look at this whole space in here. There we go. Now the seat is out of the way, and as you can see, it's just shedding all its foam. So now you might understand why I am doing this. Also, I will be replacing the carpets in the future. Will not do that right now. The first step, like I said, is just to get the seats in. And then when it's warmer outside, I'll order new carpets. They're going to be in different colors. That will be a little bit of a surprise. And I will do that in the summer because gluing carpets in is something I want to do outside when it's nice and warm. So, like we said, the XJ40 seats, they mount through here instead. And in the back, they mount just straight through the floor. So, the seats here are mounted on these tabs. The cool thing that I've sort of figured out is that the XJ40, the seat base, is not as wide in the bottom here as these. So, the seat will fit in between here. I will probably not have to remove these, and I won't have to remove these. However, I may need to make some cuts in this thing to get them down a little bit more, and that's what I want to figure out. So the idea is to mount them exactly the same as they were mounted in the XJ40. Through here, probably with, not going all the way through here, holding on to that, and through the floor, and I'll put some reinforcements there as well. So then the idea, if anyone ever wants to put this back stock, I haven't removed any mounts. I basically just drilled a couple of holes so you can fill very easily. I don't have any plans on really selling this car. I want to drive this thing for a year. So also I don't think anyone's going to put this back in. This is going to be a very, very cool interior. So let me grab the very heavy new seat, put this in place here, and we'll take some measurements. I hope you guys are getting a rough idea of the plan. It's just lay the seat in there. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed, but if I can push it down with my hand maybe, or I'm trying to film it for you guys while holding it, but if you see, it needs to go up a little bit in the back. We can sort that in a second. And then it needs to mount through the mounting holes here on the front here. So right now it's leaning way too much back. So I'm going to get some pieces of wood or something and we'll prop up the back a little bit, get this a little bit more level, put the seat base on and measure that distance again. And let's see what we get. I put just a piece of wood back here and now it's raised up pretty well. So it touches up here on the mounts in the front, and that thing's about 4 or 4.5 centimeters thick. I don't remember exactly. Which would make sense if this is about 4 centimeters higher in this car and it mounts on the floor in the XJ40. So now I just got the seat base here. I'm going to put this in and we'll measure that distance again. I believe it was 30 centimeters before. And I'm guessing that's going to be a little higher now. But let's see. Okay. Try and do the same kind of measurement, and I am getting 35 centimeters. So yeah, it actually makes sense, which is good because if I were to lower than the front of this about 5 centimeters, the back would mount nicely to the floor, and then I get the same seat base from before and I can sit in there without any issue. But I think before that, I'm actually just going to take a seat right now, even though it's going to be a little bit tight. Yeah, I am sitting way too high. You see my knees are touching here. But, 5 centimeters is quite a distance. If I get that much more distance to the wheel, that is going to be great. My head doesn't touch the ceiling at all. I probably have about 5 centimeters to the ceiling, so that 5 more will be 10. I think that is going to work really well. And now the seat is as far back as it's going to be, and it's actually a little bit too far back for me. I mean, I can reach the pedal, but I'm not comfy. I want to be a little bit closer. So I think we have a plan that's going to work. Carpet's removed, and I've made all the marks. So going to cut along there, down there, down there, and there. Same on that side, and it should then be exactly the same height as it is in the Daimler. I'm going to roll the car outside to do this, just because I don't really want to cut in here and create any sparks or other cars in here. And it's still pretty nice outside, so we'll do this outside. Then I'll bring the car back in, and hopefully the seat will fit pretty well. The cut is done. I try to do as little as possible with the angle grinder just to not throw sparks in too many places, even though I'm replacing the carpets doesn't really matter that much. So I used a Sawzall whenever possible. So you see, it is not completely in place yet. That's because I realize now that these mounts will be in the way when the seat comes that low down. So seat out again, remove any fabric around here, and I will cut these down here as well. Might leave a little bit of space there just for now in case I want to put it back on if I don't like this at all. And also, when I then have the carpets off completely, I can smooth this down all the way and make it completely flush with hair. So that's one last thing. Then I'll pull the car into the workshop again because it's about to rain, I think. It started raining, so I drove the car inside. It's not completely finished, but I'm really happy with how the seating position is turning out now. It is the right height. Felt really nice to sit when I got in. So I will show you that. However, there are a few things left to do, but these are some small items I think I can do in here. As you can see, it's not all the way down and in place. That's because you can see here, I'll move the light so you guys can see more easily. The mount gets wider at the bottom than the top, and that is a problem over there because it will hit the transmission tunnel. So I need to trim a little bit of the mount off on that side just to make that fit and be able to come down. And then I think once that is down and in place, I think I may need to make some small little distance pieces to get the rear seats up just a little bit. I mean the part of the rear just up a little bit so it's a bit more flat. And also if I do that, it's not going to foul the rear seat belt, or the seat belt here for the front seat actually. Other than that, things are good. The one thing I did find was it's very solid, but I found surface rust in there because it's just been bare metal in there pretty much the whole car's life. It's very solid though, so that's good. So this is a good time to put some rust converter on that, and I'll put some nice primer on that. Then that will be covered again when I weld this all back together, but at least I know it's rust proof in there. So that's a good idea on your car. If you have the carpet soft, maybe drill a small hole in here and just put in a hose of some wax oil and just fill that up, so at least it won't rust from the inside out. But that's pretty much it for right now. I'll probably be back in a day or so when I've had some time to think about this and solve, the next set of issues. The good thing is, though, that once I've done one side and I'm happy with it, the other side will be really easy. But I'm definitely happy with how I'm sitting. It seems to be working really well. I just need to focus on fixing a few small issues. It's a few days later, and it's been a lot of thinking and a lot of cutting and trying to work things out. And I think I know the final plan now. At least I have two ideas. So everything is in place really. So the bottom half of the seat is in the right height. However, the front half, the bottom part of the seat here, still catches on this old cross member in the front and in the back. So there's about a 1 centimeter gap here before it touches where it should be on the seat. So you may have noticed I've done a little bit of cutting. I have removed the old mounts completely here, and in the back as well. I'm going to smooth those out at a future date. These as well I'll smooth out when I weld all this up. However, to get this part to work, or actually I had one issue before. So as you can see, I have made a cut right there. That's because I forgot to realize that this whole cross member on the XJ40 is not as wide as here. That's why everything was messing up as well. So I made that cut, and now it fits really nice here. It's going to bolt down there. However, this is still an issue, and that is still an issue. So there are two plans. Either I cut this down here, make the whole part wider, or I remove part of the seat down here. But I think I've decided to cut this down here. So I got the saw out again, cut out even more of this metal, and then everything should be in place. The good thing is that once I've done this side, the other side should be much easier just to copy. Now I finally have the seat where I wanted to. Probably was a little bit naive not to remove that much metal before, but I don't know, I had some crazy idea that I wouldn't like this, but now I'm completely dedicated. There's really no going back, or well, there is. I mean, you can still weld everything, all the other things back together. I removed everything in quite big sections, but I am very happy with this. So as you can see, I hope you can see, we are basically where we started. The seat is at between 29 and 30 centimeters here in the front. And there is a ton of space down here for it to move back and forth. I have hooked up the wiring harness and moved it back and forth. It moves perfectly without touching anything. And let me see if I can just remove this for you guys. And so this is what it turned into. Basically, this whole section is from the inner sill to the transmission tunnel there. It's been lowered 6 centimeters the whole way. So now I have some things left to do down here. This, as you see, it's a little bit rusty, but it's just surface rust. This has been bare metal when someone at some point has replaced the floors and the inner sills in this car. Probably other ones as well, but it's done a long time ago and it's done very well. Except this part, they should have put some primer on that. So I will scuff this up a little bit, put on a rust converter, and just paint it before I weld this all back together. So when I'm all done, the whole idea is that this would look pretty factory. So this will be welded back over like it was before, and then there will be carpet all over it. For now, we'll be using the old carpet, but I will be replacing the carpet sometime in the summer. And when I have everything out, I will clean it up even more. Like now I'm going to go with an angle grinder to cut this down close to the wall here. But when I have the carpets completely out this summer, I will tidy up anything a little bit more, like the mounts back there. But I will, you know, bend the carpet back as far as I can. And this one's actually not glued in, so I'll take this one out pretty much all the way and clean this up. And you might have noticed I made a few little mounts. This is just a temporary one. I will be making these little spacers back here, because with those in place, everything seems to be just perfectly lined up. And what was that? I can measure it later, but I think it's like a 8 or 10 millimeter aluminum spacers that I made up, and I think they will work very well. So I have some prep work to do now, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then tomorrow or so, I will cut the pieces to go on top of here, weld it all together. And then we're getting pretty close to actually mounting the seats. And then it's on to the rear seat, which will be a little bit of a challenge as well. It's a couple of days later. As you can see, I also removed the center console just because I need to make those cuts in it, either that one or another one for the controls, and also want to move it out of the way when I'm welding. So here is the section I've cut down, so it will be 5 centimeters high now. It's all put in place. I have rust proofed underneath here and put weld-through primer, and then I have bare steel under here and there, so I will just do some simple spot welds. And really what I've been trying to say is that this is not going to look pretty now at first, because later on in the season I'm going to remove all the carpets, everything again, to put in new sound deadening, new carpets, paint the floors, get rid of the surface rust. And when I'm doing that, I will have all this away and I'll remove the rest of the spot welds, put this out of the way. For now, this is just going to be smoothed down a bit. Also, I'm using these to, I'm going to grind that off so I have a place to put the earth clamp when I'm welding. Also, the welder I have is brand new to me, so this is a learning experience with a new welder. So that's why we're just doing something pretty simple like this. Will just be a couple spot welds. It'll be strong enough, and then if I want to later, I could seam weld it at the bottom when I have everything apart again. But just to explain to you guys that the carpets they're so fragile that they're basically coming apart in my hands, and I don't want to run a car without carpets in the meantime, so that's why they're not coming completely out. I'll just do some clamps, clamp things out of the way like that so I don't damage any of it. Plus, a lot of it has been damaged before. I mean, it's all worn away here. There's some old paint and glue on here, so they're in absolute terrible shape, and Nothing I'm doing now is really making any difference. And then, you know, things will be removed in the future. Just letting you guys know that it won't be pretty or perfect right now, but with the seats in place and with carpets covering this, no one's going to see it for now. And then in a couple months, it's going to look really nice. So I'm going to hook up the, I'm going to clean off that area, get out the welder, and just do some plug welds here. This should be all in place. And then, yeah, let me do the same thing over there on the other side. About halfway through welding now. I am not a welder or a fabricator, but you know, this is fun and I want to get better at it. That's why I got the S-type, because I want to get good at welding. So picked up the welder. That is step one, otherwise you can't weld. And done that side. It didn't really turn out perfect, but it's okay for now. That's what grinders are for. However, on this side, it's so far going a lot better. I turned up the amperage a little bit after looking at the welds, and yeah, so far it's going pretty well. I mean, that side is still super strong. It's held in with a lot more than the old one was before, but I'm going to continue here. Got a little piece over here. Like I said, it's not going to be super pretty right now, but come summer, all of this will be removed. Remove all this, smooth it down, paint it all over with PR15 or something like that, and it will be nice and smooth. So everything I don't need, like over here, I'll remove later this summer. But I'm going to continue welding now before the rainstorm comes, and then we're supposed to get snow again, so that's why I got to do this today, and then I can be inside and mount everything else. Once again, it's a few days later, so I finished off all that welding. I ground it down a little bit. I put primer on it. I glued the carpets back on. I can maybe show that in a little bit later. And I bolted the seats in. So the front seats are in place. However, the next thing to do is, of course, the center console. I removed that, just, you know, don't want to damage it during cutting and welding, and also because I need to modify it. So as we know, we have these control panels here that I want to use, which is the whole idea of making new mounts. I can use all the electrics. I already fixed the loom, but I want to place them in the same place they are on the XJ6, or on the XJ40 I mean, and that's right over here. So I've just been experimenting a little bit with the ski slope here, making sure that the back of this doesn't touch where the ashtrays are. That was sort of my other idea, was to put these where the ashtrays are. But I think it will look more factory if I put them where they are on the XJ40. I think that will look very nice. So I will, I've marked out the place here. I'll use a little bit of a sharp knife. We'll cut this open. Then behind here, it feels like it's some kind of cardboard. We'll cut that open again. We'll get this in place. Do the same on the other side, and this should be ready to go back into the car. And then I think I'll just clean it up a little bit. I mean, this is probably coming out. You know, when I'm doing the carpets, I'm either going to recover it in a good match. It's very, very close to the match of the interior, or I'm going to dye it. But for now, let's make this fit. Okay, so I'm just going to cut here. I've made a mark 1 centimeter in from the edge, which is pretty much how thick the edge is around the control panel. And unfortunately, I don't know what I've done with my sort of hobby knife. I have 2 of them in the workshop. I can't find them, so I'm just using a bare blade. But I'm being careful, and I'm using a steel ruler just to try and make the cut as clean as possible. There we go. Now I'm just going to do slanted cuts like this out until the edge, so that's where we can fold in the vinyl later. There we go. Now I'm just going to cut out the foam as well. And we have this cardboard surface underneath. So I think I'm just going to drill the corners out, and then I'll probably just use a little handsaw to saw this out. There we go. That's all in place. I think that looks pretty nice. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side and then fit this to the car, and then we can get on with the wiring. I'm almost done with the electrical part in here, and it is pretty simple. When I gutted that XJ40, I removed the loom for the seats, which just looks like this, and the same in the other end, and splits over here. So I've run that under the carpet here. That's going to be covered by the center console, so you're not going to see that. And then down there, you see the connection, so that will be hidden under there. And I'm probably going to zip tie that to the part of the seat that doesn't move, and that will be out of the way. And for power, what I've decided is I'm not doing the heated seats at the moment. I will do those later, unless that one interior is coming out again. So we're just doing the electrics for adjustment. So I looked through the fuse panel, and I decided to use the fuse for interior lighting, cigarette lighter, and the clock. That has a 35 amp fuse, and I mean, it's not like you're going to be adjusting the seats a lot. I think it's going to be fine. So I've done a splice and soldered in place here where it connects to the cigarette lighter, and I have a connection here, and that will then connect to the center console, where I've done all the wiring in there already. So yeah, now it's just a matter of putting the center console in place, putting electric windows and all that back in place, getting the carpets to look kind of nice, put that back together. Then the front seats are pretty much done, and all the electrics should work, and then it's just moving on to trying to figure out the rear seats. While I'm waiting for some of this glue to dry, I added some extra glue on the back just to hold these buttons in. I decided to start to tackle the rear seat. I've already tried the bottom of the rear seat. That fits perfectly in the car. It's no issue at all, which means that the bottom edge of the rear seat fits as well. However, the top is a little bit too wide. The original seat is 129 centimeters from top to top. This one is more like 136, so that's 7 centimeters I need to cut off it. But I think I only really need to cut off from up here, because this here I think is soft enough to get pushed into place, or at least it was when I tried. So I'm gonna mark 3.5 centimeters on each side of this metal bracket here, cut that off on both sides, and let's see if that fits. Back of the rear seat is in, so now it's just the bottom half, and that should probably fit without any modifications, at least if my measurements are pretty correct. Just gotta get all the belts out here. And now all the seats are in, center console, everything works, all the electrics, and so far I'm really happy with the results. Fortunately, we have a severe storm outside, so I won't be able to film outside. The plan was to end this video with the car outside and be able to really show off this interior, but I will have to do that in a future video, and that also gives me a chance to finish a few things off. It's really late here now on Friday night, where I've done the last things here, and this needs to come out to you guys tomorrow on Saturday, and I need to finish going and edit this video. So there will have to be a future video where you see this car outside and everything is done. Need to modify the carpets back here so they go around the new seat mounts, but I think the rear seat looks absolutely fantastic. I still need to mount it up front here, but I'll just drill some holes here for the brackets and use those, and that will work really well. Center console is in, and I think it matches pretty well with the interior. I found a couple of parts which have been out of the sun on the original console, so I think that this is pretty much the original color of the interior in this car, and everything else just got a little bit light. You can see some parts which haven't been in the sun, and it seems to be sort of like that. Over there, it fits well. It needs to come over this bit, a tiny bit, the bottom seat squab, because that's why there's a little bit of fold over there when it goes against the door panel, but that's just going to come over here a little bit. Up front, everything is working. However, I've noticed a couple things I do want to change. when this all comes out, this is also because this is a little of a rough draft, and I mean I do have things to put back in, but this will come on pretty soon, and then the door card will come on when I put in the radio. So there's some things I want to fix, of course. The one issue I have found is I have mounted these backwards. I mean, everything works, but this one should be on the other side. So the only thing that sort of happens is that when you push the seat back, it goes forward, and when you push it forward, it goes back. This is because this one's supposed to be on the other side and that one on this side. But I can fix that when I take this apart and recover this in the new vinyl, because it's really, really worn. And when I put this one in, I managed to tear it a tiny bit there. But I think it looks really good. I am happy with the results. The only thing I would change now that I see it all in the car, but that can easily be done. I have a couple spare ones of these. I want this one also to be a little further forward, because now when I move the seat forward a bit, this is not all the way forward, but at least halfway forward, it covers the panel just a little bit. But these are the things that you find out when doing things like this, that there are things that you want to change after a while, but I'm very happy with what it looks like so far, and I hope you guys think it looks really nice as well. And I wish you guys could come and try it out and have a feel. It is so comfortable now. Yeah, the old seats were very, very worn, but even when they were new, they were not as comfortable as these are. They're absolutely fantastic. And then when I take everything out again, I will run a new fuse box with separate fuses for this seat and a separate fuse for the electric heated seats, and we'll make some space for that as well. So that's also why I could probably reuse this console and just elongate this hole a little bit, move this over here a little bit, and I can have the heated seat control back there or something. I think it's going to be really, really nice once I have a little bit more time to finish it off. So I think in the next video or so, or the next video on this car, you guys will see all of this together, all the last things on, the radio in, and all of this, and we can have a look at it outside, and let's go for a drive. It's been too long since I've had this car out on the road. And that's it for this video and the new interior in the XJ6. Like I said, you will see it in a future video outside in the sun once I put all the last things in, tied up a few things, and maybe I'll make a few modifications once I've taken it for a drive and sort of figured out if I really like how everything works. But I hope you guys liked following along on this big project. It's been the most ambitious thing I've done on the channel, that I have filmed the whole thing. So you got to follow along, you know, all the troubleshooting and everything. You know, sometimes when you work on something, you think you have a plan at first, and that's exactly how you want to do it. But I figured out after a while that that plan wasn't going to work, and I had to change and adapt. But I'm really happy with the results. Yes, there are a few things I would have done differently if I were to do it again. But that's the nature of doing new things. And that was sort of the whole idea behind this thing. I've replaced interiors in these before. I put a Series 3 Daimler 66 interior in my old XJ6 years and years ago, back when I was in college. And I've already done that, so I want to do something different. And I've seen a couple of XJ40 interiors fit to Mark IIs and some other jacks, but not in the XJ6 with all the electrics and everything. So that's something I wanted to try out, and I set myself a challenge, and I'm very happy with the results. So if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you like these sort of videos, so you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Make sure you ring that bell so you get notified whenever I put up a new video. Anyways, until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.